President Muhammadu Buhari establishes Presidential Transition Council. National University Commission orders closure of varsities for elections. Earthquake death toll rises to over 14,000 in Turkey. Hello and welcome to News Live. My name is Phillips Levin. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the establishment of the Transition Commission Council to oversee the 2023 transition program. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it is almost 90% ready for the conduct of the 2023 general elections. Now, Awal Mashi, the Kaduna INEC Administrative Secretary, said this on Thursday at the stakeholders meeting in Millennium Hope, Kaduna. Mashi said that the commission held a successful mock accreditation to ascertain the functionality and efficacy of the BVAS machine. He added that about 408,000 new permanent voters card and 228,000 orders transferred from other locations had been collected by their owners. He further noticed that sensitive materials for the election were already secured at the Central Bank of Nigeria. The meeting featured questions and answer sessions, and participants were made up of politicians and traditional and religious leaders, among others. The Regulatory Agency for Universities in Nigeria, the National Universities Commission, has ordered the closure of universities across the country to enable students to participate in the 2023 general elections. In a letter addressed to Vice Chancellor of all universities and directors of inter-university centers, the NUC noted that the directive was based on the directive of the Minister of Education, Adamu. Varsities are directed to shut down or suspend academic activities between February 22nd and March 14th for students to actively participate in the polls. There have been calls from the public for the closure of tertiary institutions to enable students to vote during the 2023 elections. The data from the Independent National Electoral Commission also reveals that over 26 million students are currently registered. Security agencies and the Independent National Electoral Commission have assured persons with disability or safety during the forthcoming election. This was made known on Thursday during the launch of the Albino Foundation Africa Election app at an inter-security agencies training workshop on disability inclusive election security funded by the European Union. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, said that the PWDs are a major democratic demography and have strong electoral strength, adding that ensuring the right of PWDs to vote and be voted for is one of the most visible gains in our thriving democracy. Represented by the National Commissioner in charge of Southwest, INEC, Professor Kunle Ajayi, said the Commission understands that PWDs face several obstacles around key processes within the electoral and political process, which tends to subtract their contributions towards development of the electoral and political landscape. Speaking at the event, the Commissioner of Police in charge of election affairs, Basil Idegu, said that the personnel of the police force will avail PWDs maximum security as they go to cast their votes. Now, Abdrazak Namdas has Wednesday flagged off a sensitization campaign for the presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Bola Tinubu, and other candidates of the party at his constituency. Namdas, who is the secretary of the logistics and support system of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, said the sensitization became necessary, seeing that the elections are just a few weeks away. The member representing Tongo, Jada, Mayo Belwa, and Ganye Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives disclosed that 27 Nigerian governors are subtly behind the ambition of the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressive Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He explained optimism that the presidential ambition of Tinubu is rock solid and on sound footing, while calling on his constituents to also vote for Binani as the next governor of Adamawa State.
First and foremost, I decided to organize this just to resensitize our people to come en masse and cast their votes for our candidates, especially on the 25th of February, which is for Tinubu and then Kashim, who is going to be the presidential candidate of the day. And then we have also, you don't elect a president without having his own members of parliament. And we have a legislator, and we have also the senator, who is the Senator Adamu Ismaila. We also have somebody that is going to replace me in the House of Representatives, who will represent Ganye, Jada, Tongo, Mayo Belwa, and that is Honorable Masoud Ibrahim. And in fact, after that, there will be the election 2 weeks after, which is to bring in the governor and members of her own their team, and which is the members of the legislature. So we are here. This constituency has about 6 members of House of Assembly, 1 member of House of Representatives, and you know we also have a senator that's representing the entire place. The truth is that we have already won this election by the special grace of God. As I've told them earlier, we already have about 22 states, and then we also have 5 governors on another platform, which we believe strongly are coming to vote for us. That means we have about 27 states, and I can tell you these states will work assiduously and seriously for the election of APC from top to bottom.
The Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi, has successfully carried out its first spinal surgery on a 63-year-old man who has not been able to work and move some parts of the body for some years. Now, Dr. Olabisi Ogunlaye, a consultant neurosurgeon who led the operation, said the success of the operation is not unconnected to the enabling environment given by the management of the hospital, especially in terms of providing the needed equipment, which is up to date. Now, Bauchi State correspondent Awal Hassan was there and now tells us more.
This is the modular theatre of the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital in Bauchi, which is fully equipped with the latest equipment needed to carry out the most complicated surgical operations, including spinal surgery.
Okay, here we are in modular theatre, and we are operating on Alhaji Sani Ibrahim, a 63-year-old man who presented with inability to use both upper limbs and lower limbs, and he has not been working for the past 1 year. And from all our investigation, we discovered that he has what we call cervical degenerative disease. And this morning we'll be operating on him, the first of its kind in HBUTH. And what we'll be doing is that we'll be doing corpectomy of C4, and we'll be doing discectomy of C71.
The operation, which took the combined effort of 2 neurosurgeons, a consultant anesthetics and their team, including some nurses, took more than 5 hours to accomplish. The operation was, however, successfully done, as put forward by Dr. Olabisi Ogunlaye.
The surgery was a successful one, and it's first of its kind in the history of our teaching hospital, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi. And we did it, and it was a successful one. And it gladdens our heart that this has been possible.
Alhaji Sani Ibrahim is a patient who has not been able to move some parts of his body for some time, but having undergone this operation, now has a different story to tell.
I cannot raise my hand, leg, I can raise them now, everything. I can even Welcome.
Oh my God!
Initially, I
This
cannot do
is
it. I cannot do it
excellent.
like that. You see, in fact, I thank God. I thank to the teachers, more especially my doctor. So, Dr. Abudlay.
With this development at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi, does that change the people's narrative about going to other states and abroad to seek to medical solutions?
This is a good news to them. Before, they have to go to Kano, some have to go to Abuja, some have to go to Lagos, even outside the country, just because we don't have all the necessary things to offer them these services. But now, when you are here, once you come, we can offer you these services. And apart from offering you these services, we offer it at a subsidized rate, which is easier for all our teeming populations because they can get it at affordable prices. Not the prices they will get it at Kano or in Abuja or outside the country. And also, for the rest of the country, anywhere they are, they can also come over here because they are sure that they will get the best services at affordable prices.
Abul Hassan, you are TV News, Bauchi.
I will go on a break, and when we return, we'll be looking at the federal government insists on February 10th Naira swap deadline, ask Supreme Court to dismiss state suit. We have this and more after this break.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Who are you?
I'm at the Envoy Hotel, Diplomatic Drive 305. Here for a business weekend. It's been an amazing stay. Conference hall and business facilities here are stylish and innovative. The Envoy Hotel is luxury, esoteric, opulent, for ultimate comfort.
Discerning travelers, we are more than just a place to stay. We are an icon of comfort, style, and thoughtful luxury. We are Envoy Hotel.
Welcome back, and it's good to know that you are still with us. Well, if you're just joining us, this is News Live, and here is a recap of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari establishes Presidential Transition Council. And also, National University Commission orders closure of VASTIS for election. And away from Nigeria, earthquake death toll rises to over 14,000 in Turkey. Moving forward, the Nigerian military and other security agents have recovered 6 AK-47 rifles and 3 other local guns from the outlawed indigenous people of Biafra Eastern Security Network criminals in the southeast Nigeria. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Musa Madami, said these during the bi-weekly news briefing in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, saying that briefing covered the period of 26th January to 9th February 2023. General Madami said that following the firefight, troops also neutralized one terrorist and destroyed 10 motorcycles, among others. According to him, in furtherance to this, troops carried operational activities in villages, forests, towns, and cities of Anambra, Abia, Enugu, and Imo State, geared towards restoring peace and normalcy to the region. The Military High Command commended the troops' efforts in various theaters of operations across the nation. Now, UNICEF has said that 1.9 million children, including youths affected by insurgency, lack access to basic education across the Northeast. This was disclosed during a media dialogue with education correspondents on its achievement in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states. Now, UNICEF said although with partnership of organizations and the federal government, over 18,000 teachers were trained to ensure quality education, but more interventions is needed to address learning crisis and challenges of out-of-school and displaced children. It added that almost half of the schools across the Bay states need rehabilitation and furniture, stressing that only 29% schools have teachers with minimum qualifications, which demand more qualified and trained teachers.
Only 47% of schools in Borno have furniture, with lower proportions in Yobe and Adamawa states. Only 30% of schools in Adamawa have learning supplies for children, with lower proportions again in Borno and Yobe. It is therefore little wonder that according to the multiple indicator cluster surveys in 2021, that less than half of the children complete their primary school in northeastern Nigeria. About 1.9 million boys and girls and youth affected by the conflict are without access to basic quality education in the region. This is the first training of its kind to have this many teachers being trained. It's a start. Is it enough? I'm not so sure. And in fact, I would blatantly say, no, it's not enough, but it is a fantastic start. And it is something that the government of Nigeria is aware of.
Now, uncertainties trailing the Central Bank of Nigeria's Naira redesign policy continued when the Supreme Court overruled an earlier injunction granted by the High Court in the Federal Capital Territory, restraining the federal government and the CBN from undermining the February 10 deadline for the ongoing currency swap. While the Supreme Court ruling appeared to have dosed the tension scarcity of cash had induced in the polity, the federal government has approached the Supreme Court asking it to dismiss a suit challenging the February 10 deadline set by CBN to end the legal tender status of the old currency notes of 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira notes. It argued that the Supreme Court lacks jurisdiction to hear the suit, which was filed by 3 states, Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara, all in northern part of the country and controlled by the ruling All Progressive Congress. The respondent maintained that the case is not a dispute between the Federation and the state government, but merely an issue about CBN's policy. It said the suit is therefore not qualified to be taken directly to the Supreme Court for adjudication, arguing that the suit ought to have commenced at the Federal High Court. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami sued as the sole defendant, as the representative of the federal government filed his opposition to the suit as a preliminary objection against it at the Supreme Court. Now, the Nigerian military has assured the Special Independent Investigative Panel on Human Rights Violation in the Counterinsurgency Operators in the Northeast, SIPNI, of its readiness to cooperate with the panel, including making available officers that might be needed in the course of the investigations. This was made known by the Tony Ojukwu, Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission, in the state on Thursday. Now, Ojukwu said the military high authority also assured Nigerians of the security and safety of the members of the panel and other persons who may be involved in the course of the proceeding at the panel. Ojukwu said that During his visit to the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo commended the Commission for undertaking to investigate Reuters' allegations of human rights violation against the military. Now, the British Council has rewarded 12 Nigerians for their outstanding achievements as business professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders, as well as their contribution to strengthening ties between Britain and Nigeria. Recipients of the Study UK Alumni Award 2023 in Nigeria were honored during an award ceremony in Lagos. The winners receive a prize of £4,000, which could be used for their professional development or grant to their respective organizations. The awardees were selected for the award categories, namely the Business and Innovation Award, Culture and Creativity Award, Science and Sustainability Award, and finally Social Action Award, following a call for application and an in-depth scoring and review process by a panel. Well, you're still watching News Live on Viewer Television. Up next, we'll be looking at business, international, and entertainment news.
Two souls came together. Two souls came together. There I heard
Tat Fragrance, the new luxury fragrance for men and women.
Now on business, the Naira on Thursday exchanged at 461.17 to the dollar at the investor and exporters window. The figure represented an appreciation by 0.07% compared to 461.50 it exchanged for on Wednesday. The open market indicative rate closed at 461.50 Naira to the dollar on Thursday. An exchange rate of 462 Naira to the US dollars was the highest rate recorded within the day trading before it eventually settled at 461.17 Naira. The Naira sold for as low as 446 to a dollar within the day's trading. A total of $55.52 million was traded at the official investor and exporters window on Thursday. Now, according to a report gathered, as the Naira scarcity persists, more banks have started shutting down their branches. It was observed large queues still exist at automated teller machines of many commercial banks in Abuja and other parts of the country on Wednesday. As the February 10th deadline of old 1,500 and 200 Naira notes to stop being legal tender approaches, more Nigerians are getting frustrated due to the inability of access cash for their regular transactions. This has further led to protests and attack on banks, which have been condemned by the National Union of Banks, Insurance and Financial Institutions employees. Still on Naira crisis, the Supreme Court on Wednesday restrained the federal government from implementing the Friday deadline for the currency swap. The 7-man panel of the Apex Court, led by Justice John Okoro, in a unanimous ruling granted an interim injunction restraining the federal government, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the commercial banks from implementing the Friday terminal date for the old Naira notes. Also on Wednesday, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank urged the CBN to extend the time limit. The advice of the international organization was in line with the Supreme Court ruling against the Friday deadline. The IMF and the World Bank stated that a short time frame for the currency was causing hardship in the country. Now, oil marketers have said the supply of premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol, had not yet stabilized, and this was why queues were still prevalent in many parts of Nigeria, aside Abuja, where it had reduced. Now, reacting to the statement of the Group Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, Miele Kyari, that fuel queues will clear in 1 week. The marketers expressed optimism but insisted that it will be tough to enforce the 195 naira per litre government-approved price on all filling stations. This came as the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria revealed on Wednesday that NNPC had promised IPMAN that it had set aside about 140 million litres of PMS for members of the association in a bid to address their fuel supply challenges. Commenting on the remarks made by Kyari as regards clearing fuel queues, the Secretary IPMAN Abuja Suleja, Muhammad Shuaibu, explained the queues in Abuja were subsiding, which was not the case in other states because the seat of government was in Abuja, adding that the government gave a marching order on the PMS supply to the capital city. And away from Nigeria, Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky has met with EU Council President Charles Michel during a special European Union summit. Now, the EU leaders on Thursday hailed the arrival of Ukrainian President Zelensky in Brussels for his first visit to the heart of the Union since Russia's invasion. Zelensky's speech to the EU Parliament in Brussels on Thursday morning was very much about mood and thanks and appealing to people. Meanwhile, President of the European Council, Charles Michel, welcomed Zelensky home.
Touched to welcome you in the European Council. It is with great respect we welcome you in person at the European Council. Welcome to the EU, welcome home. We are well aware of the risks linked to you traveling here, and we appreciate your visit all the more.
Beijing has condemned U.S. President Joe Biden's comments that Xi Jinping faced enormous problems, saying the remarks were extremely irresponsible. The latest rhetorical salvo between the United States and China came after last week's downing of the Chinese balloon that Washington said was part of a spy fleet spanning 5 continents. Following a brief warning that November G20 meeting between Biden and Xi, U.S.-China relations have once again nosedived, with Secretary of State Antony Blinken last week calling off a visit to Beijing over the balloon fracas. The U.S. has alleged that high-altitude device which crossed directly over at least one sensitive U.S. military site was intended for espionage. However, China has angrily denied the claims, arguing that it was a weather observation craft that blew off course.
这个气球是所谓机群的一部分，这个我不了解。我想这可能是美方对中国进行信息舆论战的一部分。谁是世界上最大的间谍、监听、监测国家？国际社会看得很清楚。
The death toll in Turkey from this week's powerful earthquake has risen to over 14,000, with more than 63,000 injured. Now, President Tayyip Erdogan told reporters on Thursday during a visit to the quake-hit province of Gaziantep, he said more than 6,400 buildings had been destroyed and that Turkey aimed to build new 3- and 4-story buildings in the region within 1 year.
Yıkıntılarda hayatını kaybeden vatandaşlarımızın sayısı toplamda 14.014'e ulaştı. Yaralılarımızın sayısı ise 63.794.
Freezing temperatures deepened the misery on Thursday by survivors of the massive earthquake in Turkey and Syria as rescuers raced to save countless people still trapped under the rubble. Search and rescue operations are ongoing across the affected region as the combined death toll in Turkey and neighboring Syria hits 17,100. Still on natural disaster, Syrian civilians have volunteered to help the White Helmets rescuers as they search for survivors under the rubble of collapsed buildings after a deadly earthquake shook the country and neighboring Turkey. A leading UN official called for the facilitation of aid access to rebel-held areas in the northwest of Syria, warning that relief stocks will soon be depleted.
وتسعت الامور معنا بس سبحان الله ضغط كبير وكان كارثه كبيره يعني شيء ما بتخيل عقلي ولا بتوقع الانسان انه شيء يصير والله صابت مشاهدات الاطفال تحت الركام يعني احد المشاهدات شفت امراه وحيض اطفال اثنين مسكتهم ونام عليهم ميتين سبحان الله شلنا الاطفال والام ميتين طلع هيك حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل شيء رب العالمين يقدر علينا.
Meanwhile, the issue of aid to Syria is a delicate one with sanctions on President Bashar al-Assad government. Now on entertainment, singer Olawale Brimo has condemned his colleague Mr. P for making his late dad seem insignificant while boasting about being self-made to paint Sean Kuti less capable of being able to achieve success without his family's influence. Mr. P and the youngest son of Fela engaged in an online verbal war, mudslinging each other over Peter's choice of presidential candidate and his engagement in the political campaign, urging people to vote for his principle. According to Kuti, Mr. P had no moral justification to do that because he had been in close affiliation with politicians and Richmond, creating hardship for the masses. But Peter Okoye, reacting to Sean, shaded him using several vituperative. The Nigerian singer Ice Prince Amani is back with a new single titled Get At You. Ice, the Jos-born rapper, dropped the first song of the year and it was produced by talented SB. Let's take a look at the song.
Thinking about you, how the fuck I care. Puffing out the air, mess up the whole damn atmosphere. Man, I'm trying to be cool like my heart's not bleeding. I'm even, acting Adam and even. Reading all the stuff that you're reading. I'm shivering, holy garden of Eden. I'm feeling like Moses with a stick. Your legs like the ocean, how they open up quick. It's been a little rough.
With his exhibition, The Power of Touch, open at the Qantas Gallery in London, visually impaired artist Clark Reynolds wants to break down barriers with colorful braille's artwork that is accessible for everyone, the unsighted and visual impaired. Here's the report.
Meet Clark Reynolds, the visually impaired artist breaking down barriers with colorful braille artworks accessible to everyone. Clark was born with limited sight in his right eye, which he eventually completely lost.
And I was like, well, braille is not meant to be seen. And then I had the idea about giving it colour. And behind you, you know, they look something out of very pop arty, but the idea, the colours aren't random. So what I did, I looked at the commonality of letters appearing in words, then used colour theory. So they weren't just random colours I plucked out of the air.
His exhibition, The Power of Touch, opened at the Qantas Gallery in London.
I think there's a big stigma behind, whether or not an artist should have some kind of a platform, whether they're blind or have a disability of some kind.
Braille is used by 30,000 people in the UK. According to the Qantas Gallery, in recognition of his contributions, Reynolds has a class named after him at London's King's Cross Academy, where he teaches Braille to students.
That's all on Newsline. But before we go, here is a recap of our top stories. Now, you've had President Muhammadu Buhari establish his Presidential Transition Council. And also, a National University Commission orders closure of varsity for election. And away from Nigeria, we heard earthquake death toll rises to over 14,000 in Turkey. Well, thank you for your time and, of course, your company. My name is Philip Sliven. Please do enjoy the rest of our programs. Have a great evening.